believe all white people are racist.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because
Go
racism,
ahead, Vicky.
You are inherently racist.
racism
I
isn't
mean,
just
yeah.
racism isn't just like the words. Like when people think racism, people think, oh, calling someone who's black the N word. That's what racism is. But no, racism is actually a system, right? So there's multitude of things that contributes to racism in this society that we operate in the United States of America that have been set up by white people for their benefit. That is at the detriment of marginalized communities that are not majorities. So that's why, and racism is something that affects all of that.
Like for example, do you go shopping at Winn-Dixie or Publix?
There is no Publix around me. I shop everywhere though.
Yeah, but so like there's like medical racism right there. There's medical racism. There's systemic racism. Those things like that that we see day to day. That BIPOC or marginalized groups are affected primarily rather than white people. And that's just because of the system that white people created. Like, for example, DJ, can you name me a system that is solely operated by BIPOC people, that white people had to lean on for their livelihood or survivability?
Post-apartheid South Africa, but that's all I can really think of at this time.
Well, let's talk about America, because even in post-apartheid South Africa, you guys were still the colonizers. You guys stayed in the land from the 1600s or however long you that's not a conversation you really want to have, because honestly, you're not indigenous there. I don't care if you were there in the 1500s or the 1400s.
No, he's
no. I was just that was the only example I could think of. Off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was
it's actually not an example. Like white people own like 85 to 90% of the world.
Yeah, it's still very much whitewashed. But there is no system that BIPOC people or white people have to solely depend on BIPOC people who have full ownership of for their survival of life. So every system is operated by white people in the world, and we as marginalized groups have to depend on those individuals not to cause harm to the minority group of the people who are using it, which is just inherently flawed and will always happen because they set up this system.
As far as you say systemic racism, where do you see the systemic racism coming into play against black people in America?
Everywhere.
Pick a place.
And the reason I ask this is I'm just saying the reason why I ask this is I've worked in law enforcement for 7 years.
That's everything I need to know.
Slow down, DJ, real quick, because you're trying to pop out questions, and you don't even understand what you're saying. You're only popping out questions because they're buzzwords, and I can hear it.
No, I'm asking questions because I don't know. Because I don't know. I'm wanting to know.
Right. But you're not understanding.
We got a whole ass cop up here right now, on duty right now.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on,
y'all. If you want to have a conversation, let's let her have a
Okay.
T-Bone is talking.
Let's
because Bella's not engaging, I'm going to act as if DJ is the only opposition. To be fair, he is not a police officer. He is a ex-police officer that does say fuck 12. So I do have just a smidge bit of respect for DJ because he actually policed in my city. And so the fact that he would say fuck 12 is like a big thing to me. So I do want to treat DJ with some type of respect here. You feel me?
Yeah, and we can still have the conversation.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not going to take offense. Like I said, I don't understand because I am not a person of color, and I just want to.
DJ, hold on. Take a breath real quick. This is not a conversation that should go fast if you're asking questions like this. First of all, do you understand implicit and explicit biases? Now, if you were someone who was under the badge, you may not understand what I'm speaking of. So do you understand those things?
I do.
Okay. So if you're saying F12 in your city, because Tom just said it, then you would understand what we're telling you. There shouldn't honestly, the question should be like, okay, what else can I see? Not what is there? Because you're asking us, does it exist? Kind of in those questions. And your next question should be, okay, what else do I need to know? so I can help better. Does it make sense? That's why it kind of sounds disingenuous to me. I'm not saying Tom's
Well,
wrong. And
I can elaborate. The
Okay,
reason
go
why I feel the way I did, because I grew up half white, half
ahead.
Filipino. So I was white to certain people, and I was not white to other people, and it affected me. My mom is a person of color. I lived next to legitimate white hood wearing members, like legitimate, organized, burning cross kind of folks. And some of those people were police officers. So when I was a young person, I had a mental acuity to say, I want to be the change for the better. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So
I
I tried that,
understand.
and I did see racism from law enforcement officers, which I reported,
Tripping
and
T-Bone, bro.
it flew back on me in certain cases. In certain cases, it was accepted, and the report was honored. And I think that's unacceptable, because by the very policy of which these officers were acting was in direct violation of the rules that we set in place, that the policies we had. So they were not only breaking the policies, which is a terminatable offense. It seems like police officers we have what we call qualified immunity. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. So we can get away with breaking laws almost to the point, but policy violations are more severe against us.
You got a
And while
real live crack in your shit right now.
I'm sorry.
And the issue is some of it was handled appropriately, some of it was handled not. But I know off the back there was nothing in the system that allowed these people to do what they did in the first place.
Can I ask your age range, if you don't mind me asking? I don't want to know your age. I just want to know.
You're fine. I'll tell you my exact age. I'm 38 years old.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. I guess because I'm older than you. I'm almost towards my 50s, so I'm way old. Hey, cousin. I'm way older than you, so I've seen a lot of life. Been a lot of life. My dad was also one time, but he was what you would consider the fire in the hole, because he fucked up a lot of shit at the LAPD. When I tell you, he went in, he had them white tea people on them toes. You know what I'm saying? Because he did not like what happened to him in the military. So when I hear you talk about like, oh, you saw these things and you legitimately, but my daddy was in the midst of those people who burned crosses on his lawn. And he did it because he wanted his girls, because he only has girls, me and my sister. He wanted us to be safe. He was willing to take the bullet to make sure me and my sister were safe. My dad created policies and laws within the LAPD so that me and my sister could be safe. So for you to sit here and I'm not jumping down. I'm really not going to jump down your throat. I'm trying to have an equitable conversation. To sit here and say, oh, well, what do you see as systematic racism? I feel like that you're trying to throw bait out there to us to argue with you. And I'm not trying to argue with you. I just don't think it's fair. Only because I am a child of an ex-military and ex-police officer. So I'm like, this sir.
What was your?
Well, I say that because the rules itself.
Why you didn't set nothing on fire by your house? Because my daddy would have set something on fire.
I understand. I served in the military as well. I did 8 years in the service on 3 deployments. I completely understand. And it wasn't and this is not to be like enticing or to try to bait anybody. I say this from somebody who's been in the position and never, to me, in my mind, systemic says that the laws itself are designed against you. That's what I believe.
DJ, that's why
I just never saw those laws. I've never seen any laws that says specifically if you see a person of color doing this or that. And that's what I'm asking about systemic.
Pick a place, pick a thing, pick a situation, a system, and we will tell you about the racism in it, systemic racism in it.
He's conflating systematic and systemic.
Right.
Yeah, I just think he doesn't even have to do that. Oh, go ahead.
Are we going to define those for him so that he understands, or are we just going to?
That's why I said in the comments systemic versus there's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
But since he is using his profession, I don't mind using the profession of law enforcement in this country as we can go through that and show how there's systemic racism in that. Like that's straightforward.
So I'm going to give a quick rundown of systemic racism and systematic racism so that maybe you can understand why we say it. So systematic racism is going to be predicated on laws and procedures that specifically state that it is to, the design is specifically stated, or the intent is stated to be at the demise of Black and brown people, right? So that legislation is actually written out where we can see this is for Black and brown people. And to be honest with you, systemic racism still exists today. Like, we could take a look at what's going on in Alabama, Florida, Texas. But if you look at systematic racism, that just means that the result of a system that is put in play has a negative outcome for Black and brown people. So for example, like, let's just go with like the 94 crime bill, right? Like the 94 crime bill has systemic effects from it because there is nothing that states Black people specifically are going to go to prison more for this certain drug, right? There was nothing within legislation that said this, but the outcome and the result of that said system and legislation ended with Black and brown people being in prison more than white people. Does that make sense, DJ?
It does. And just to show that I'm genuine, I'm going to show my face, and then I'll show why I say that I never seem to fit in either one side or another in certain communities.
No,
not if you're working.
Oh, you're good. I just wanted to make a point. Like, that right there is my biological mother. As you can tell, she's clearly not white, and as you can see here, I am clearly white passing, with the orange hair, the Irish, you know. So
your mom is white, dude.
Orange hair. I have red hair too. I was born with red hair.
Yeah, that's just I'm a
Black woman.
I just want to point out that that is a Filipino woman and not a white woman. She wasn't born in this country. She was born in the Philippines. She left a communist dictator country. She fled from, his name was Marcos, and she fled. My grandmother and her fled her country when she was a child and became an American citizen. So I'm just saying
that is the whitest Filipino woman I've ever seen in my life.
Actually,
does she have a white
parents? No,
how dare you? Are you denying her blackness?
She's
dad,
not black, Belle.
My grandfather.
No.
Her dad, my grandfather was
Black Belle. What the fuck?
I'm so sorry, DJ.
My grandfather, her father, was unalive during the Bataan Death March in World War II. My grandma, she passed away in the islands. She was never an American citizen.
So she's biracial.
No. Both of her parents are Filipino. My grandfather was a Filipino man who died in the Bataan Death March, and my grandmother was a Filipino woman who never lived in the United States.
You have ancestry as Spanish, so right, because it was conconquered by Spain.
Yeah,
right.
We were enslaved. We were enslaved by España.
That could be that too. I mean, I don't want to get into. I just don't want to get into all that's a whole other place to go.
So wait. Do you put? She puts Asian on all of her government documents, and you put white, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I put.
Boy, it look like that nigga will take my dime bag and beat me down for that shit.
I try to be as intellectually honest and just generally honest as possible. So when I do fill out government paperwork, I put 2 or more races because that is the honest response.
Well, what do you do?
But you just said, hold on, Belle. Hold on, Belle.
Hold on.
I was talking. But you just said that you present as a white person, correct? Because when I look at you, I
get called white. I don't just go up to people and say, "Oh yeah, I'm white." I don't ever actually like announce my race or anything like that. They just say, "Oh, white."
Yeah. So like,
when I grew up in the South, it was a lot of people assumed I was white until they met my mom, and that's when problems arose because, as you know, in the South, they're not as open-minded as in other places.
Yeah. So like, you experiencing bigotry is not the same as you experiencing racism. And the fact that you experience bigotry because of what your mom looks like doesn't mean that you're experiencing racism. Like, when I look at you, I see a white man.
I don't think
I'm not going to argue with you about that.
And I think that, like, when you walk through the world, people treat you like a white man, correct?
Yeah, I would say so. Okay. Absolutely.
So observant, if someone who looks like him, looks like him comes out.
Yeah, Belle. So give me one more second. One more second. I'm almost done. One more second. Yeah. So like, I think it's kind of hard to have a conversation with you about like systemic racism when you don't experience it, which is probably why you're having like a tough time with what Doc Prostitution was saying, what Ashley was saying, what Spiffy is saying. Like, I think.
No, I have no qualms with anyone. I'm here for simple fact. I mean, you can ask Tom. Every time I've been on his panel, I'm completely respectful.
Yeah,
I'm
so I
not
don't think
here to.
I'm
I'm
not
not here to cause issue. I'm really
Yeah,
willing to
so
learn.
you're not hearing me. I'm not saying that you're here to cause issue or that you're being an issue. I'm saying that like white people sometimes have a trouble digesting concepts like systemic or systematic racism because they don't experience it.
Yeah,
That's
and I think that's where the questioning is coming from, because your questioning isn't so much like, okay, we've been through this. What else am I missing? The question is, what's happening? You know what I'm saying? You're not
Just
asking
ask him
us.
straight up, nigga, you racist or not?
Bro. Stop.
Well,
Anyway, stop.
the question, oh, I'm sorry, Spiffy.
No, you're good. No, no, go ahead, finish.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Your questioning isn't like, what more can I do? The questioning is, I don't know what to, like, your questioning just seems off to me. That's why, and I didn't catch on, and I'm glad Observant did. I didn't catch on that you didn't know the definition between systematic and systemic, because had I paid attention then, I probably would have rephrased my questioning. I'm not saying that you're daft or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But when it comes to these conversations, and when you told us that experience about, oh, I live right next door, and you allowed them to exist, like without prep, like, like it just
Allowing them
seems like
to
you.
exist.
Well,
I mean,
well, because
they're
it just.
Americans. They
Well, hold on, hold
have
on,
the right to be ignorant, and I don't agree.
hold on. I wasn't done. Hold on. You allowed them to create harm where you stay at, because you, like you're saying now, oh, well, they're Americans. Is that American? Is that American? Do you
I
allow?
mean, it is a part
That's
of their
why I
First
said
Amendment
the
right.
question. Hold on, sweetheart. Let me finish. I'll be real quick. That's why I think my questioning was wrong, and Observant pulled it out that I did, and I didn't realize you didn't understand the definition. So when you said it, you were just saying it like a story, and we all side eyeing you. I'm just letting you know, we bombastic.
Well, wait.
That's fine.
But
We can
I
accept
don't.
that. But
No,
I
I
mean,
don't
I
want.
have experienced racism. I have spent 2 weeks in the ICU being stomped into the ground because of my family, of my heritage.
That's not how racism works.
Nigga crazy, man. Where that nigga spit corn at and my corn at?
So me being attacked for being
God
mixed
damn,
and not
boy,
white is not racism.
Okay, can I finish, please?
That's what I'm not understanding.
Yeah, wait.
Like,
Well, Dr. Foster, I'm gonna have to disagree with one part when you said, "Is this America?" Hell yeah, that's America. America is that. Okay.
The fabric of this country.
I don't like it. I don't like that this is America,
Well,
but it is.
let me rephrase it. Let me
Wait.
rephrase it. It's American like apple pie, but why would you allow it? Because we ready to fight. Most of us are ready to fight.
Wait.
I was a small child.
Because I was
Oh,
gonna say,
okay.
it depends on that. Like I don't. He wasn't, from my understanding of that, what he was saying. He wasn't saying that story as something that is currently occurring. Like this.
Oh,
This was
okay.
this is past tense. That's why I was like, I don't want to get too far from that part. But